Hello, and welcome back to the Cellblock Scorch. It's Octo this week. This week is 230B, and the prompt was Unorthodox prosthetics, given by Styx. I won this week, which is why I get to read my thing to you. This week's isn't a, part of a bigger universe. It's just a one-shot little thing I did. I think it's fun. I hope that you like it. The piece I made is called Limbs. So let's get right into it. They weren't too put out when they lost their arm in that freak casting accident. Well, the casting itself wasn't an accident. The accident part was that the creature they had summoned was a little slipperier than expected and had escaped. And was hungry. And had maybe taken their arm off just below the shoulder. That's why officials encourage having a casting buddy when summoning anything that could and would fit any part of you in its mouth, they supposed. Anyway, limb losing, not particularly annoying. There were so many types of magical prosthetics that it wouldn't be missing for long. Or so they thought. Growing a new limb out of plants? Turned out they were allergic to pretty much any sort of plant that was amenable to being an arm. Metallurgy? Also out. They had too much elvish blood in them for the materials to cooperate completely. If they wanted a club, it was possible, but their fingers never moved right. An elemental construct? Well, their strongest element was fire. Their only element was fire, actually. A firearm? Not really a tenable option. Except for that one time some fools had tried to mug him while he'd been returning, defeated and depressed, from the prosthesis clinic. Turned out firearms were very effective when batting away idiots. The prosthetics consultant they were working with was starting to get desperate. Together, they'd tried forming an arm out of paper, dirt, yarn, even other people's donated arms. But no dice. It was something of a point of pride for their consultant now. They'd seen her leafing through more and more obscure books with each visit, and she showed no sign of stopping. On this fine morning, they dragged themselves into the clinic with no expectation of getting an arm out of this particular visit. Their consultant had sounded excited on the phone, but she had sounded excited several times before now, and nothing had happened. She welcomed them into her office with a friendly finger flutter, then gestured emphatically for them to sit down. "I've got it this time! You know what phantom limbs are?" They squinted at her. Did you steal some poor ghost's arm from me?" She scoffed and shook her head. No, I've already looked into that and it wasn't feasible. Essentially, because your brain expects your missing limb to still be there, it feels things that aren't there. You ever feel that? Yeah, feels like I get terrible cramps sometimes, but there's nothing I can do about it. They glanced down at the very arcane-looking tome she had splayed open in front of her with open suspicion. Why? According to this text, it's not your brain, it's your soul, remembering the shape it's supposed to be in. Only problem is, souls aren't really tangible. She grinned and smacked her palms down on the tome, then turned it so they could look over the complex magic circle etched onto the yellowing pages. However, with the correct ritual, we can sort of crystallize that part of your soul, that's where your arm used to be, and make you a new arm. They blinked, glanced down at where their arm used to be, looked over the probably illegal sigil. Soul magic was generally a no, shining up at him. Blinked again. "Well?" she asked impatiently, leaning toward them over the desk and tapping on the concurrent circles spidering over the pages. "What do you think? Want to give it a shot?" They blinked one more time, slowly, to let their brain reboot. Then they grinned back at her just a touch manically. 5 hours later, they walked out with both their hands shoved in their pockets, whistling a jaunty little tune. Sure, their new arm was translucent from the shoulder down, and maybe illegal in several countries, but it was there.
Styx here with the judge commentary for this week. I think All that really needs to be said here is that I genuinely believe Octo is one of the funniest people on the planet. Octo has a super subtle, dry way of writing humor and comedy, and I am a sucker for it. The other piece was more emotional, kind of sad, and it was really good. But it was just so hard for me to resist the little details that Octo added about this limb being illegal in several countries, or the allergies to all of the plants that were amenable to becoming prosthetic limbs. Part of the beauty of the Scorch, I think, is that the judging is not necessarily based on quality, just based on whichever one the judge happens to like the best, which is so easily influenced by the judge's mood and a million different factors. And so all the pieces are equally good, but I do find myself consistently charmed by Octo's particular style of writing, and I think it's absolutely lovely.
Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that little jaunt, basically. I like this little world that I've made. It's a little bit unhinged. I like the magic aspects that I put into this. That you can and will summon things, and everybody does, and sometimes if you're an idiot, you get bitten by whatever you get summoned. I don't know what this person summoned, but they definitely should have had a buddy, because it tried to eat them, and it almost succeeded. Um, I actually think that prostheses are really interesting. Prosthetics. I can never remember how to make that plural. I think they're really interesting. I actually, in high school, I went kind of through a phase where I was really interested in prosthetics because someone I knew lost all the feeling in their legs, and I like went into a weird panic response about it, and I almost actually like went to college for creating prosthetics, and then I'm currently a graduate student. And then when I decided to go to graduate school, I also almost went into prosthetics here also, but I didn't. Maybe I should have. Oh well. But they're really interesting to me. I like how they can, they can help people. It improves lives. This person is a little funny to me because they're just incredibly unlucky. There are so many options in this magical world that give people limbs or like limb facsimiles back, but they're just like incapable of using all of them. The phantom limb thing is like a real life like sort of medical condition. It can be really painful for people who like lost an arm because their brain is like, hey, your hand's cramped, but there is no hand to uncramp. They're just kind of stuck there. And so there's a lot of different ways to deal with it, and I thought that was super interesting. But basically, in this piece, I decided to mess with that as an idea to solve the problem. And I figured that, anything to do with souls is generally illegal, but who's gonna begrudge this guy his arm, How are they gonna prove that it's not some weird gelatinous thing? There's so many different things in this world that prosthetics are made out of. I think there's a limb-losing epidemic in this world, I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, that's basically what's going on there. I hope you got a kick out of it. I really like this little guy. I don't think I'm ever gonna write anything more for this universe, but it's fun. Alright. So, since I won, I got to give the next prompt. And the prompt that I gave was, grudges are much like potato chips. You can't just have one. And Cricket won that one. With a story about Anastasia, one of the Cinderella's, stepsisters. It's just, I think I kind of just made that phrase off the top of my head. It seemed applicable. A lot of the people I'm friends with like vengeance a lot. And I can't really, get behind that, but, good for them. So, grudges. Gotta have them. And I'm excited to comment about that eventually, when that comes around to be my turn again. I can't remember. Alright, well, hopefully, you had a good time here, and I will see you at some point. Keep that fire burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. We can be reached at thestellacore@gmail.com, through comments on your podcast platform of choice, our Instagram, Stella_core, and at our YouTube, also called Stellacore. Feel free to check out our other productions on our YouTube channel or our cosplays on Instagram. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon, linked in the show notes. There, you can access the winning Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to all of the Scorch submissions.